Very good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the FPSO World Congress Live 2020. My name is Jamie, and on behalf of the FPSO Network, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you here with us virtually today. Now, 2020 has indeed been a very strange and challenging year, and like many industries, the FPSO market is faced with the complexities of the global COVID-19 pandemic, as well as volatile oil prices. However, we continue to be resilient when faced with these challenges and will, as we have done before, emerge even stronger as a community. Now, I'm very pleased to share with you that as of today, we have over 1,600 participants registered to the FPSO World Congress Live 2020 from all across the globe. And these include participants from Asia, China, Brazil, USA, Europe, Africa, and more. Now, this is without a doubt a strong testament of the importance of this Congress as the industry gathers once again to navigate the current challenges together. This phenomenal result would not have been possible without the support of our industry partners, speakers, participants, and of course, all of our sponsors. So thank you all for your continued support, and we promise to deliver only the best content to the community for the community. Now, this is the first time we are holding this Congress on a virtual platform, so here are some administrative points to ensure you make the most out of your time with us and allow you to fully maximize the networking opportunities available on this platform. Firstly, the FPSO World Congress Live 2020 will span across the following days with different content and sessions happening across each day. Do note that the sessions on the 4th of September is by invite only and is not open for all. Your agenda timeline displays all the sessions across the entire Congress. To access each session just as you have done for this one, all you need to do is click on the join button at each session when it is time, and you will be brought to the session page. As you are watching the session live, please feel free to input any questions that you have into the live Q&A box. And you will also be able to view more information about the session via session info. Lastly, you will also be able to take notes from each session under My Session Notes, and you will be able to export all the notes you've taken after the sessions themselves. At the end of each session, simply head back to your agenda timeline and repeat the same process for every other session. One new interesting element we're bringing you to at the 2020 FPSO World Congress is what we call the power demonstration videos. Now, over the next few days, you will find these 10-minute videos, which are essentially short snippets of what solutions and products are actually out there for the FPSO industry. These videos will be shown at the end of each session, and we are certain you'll find them useful. At the FPSO World Congress Live 2020, we are very proud to bring you the virtual exhibition booth. Visit the virtual exhibition booth and find out more about all our sponsors, and you will be able to connect with any representatives through the individual pages and download any resources available for you. Of course, don't forget to check out the FPSO Network booth as well. We have already prepared many resources and reports available for you to download. Now, at the FPSO Network, we understand and we know that networking is an integral element of our FPSO congresses. And this year, we are bringing this to you via the virtual speed networking session and the meeting hub. The virtual speed networking session will happen over the next 3 days, and I will be sharing more information with you about that later, so do stay tuned. All participants registered to the FPSO World Congress Live 2020 can be found in the meeting hub. All you need to do is connect with any participant you like, and once you have connected with them, you will be able to speak with them via live chat, message, or even arrange for video meetings directly through this platform. The virtual exhibition booths and meeting hub will be open across all days of the Congress, and you will be able to arrange for meetings with them throughout the 5 days where applicable. We also highly encourage you to update your profile section so everyone will know who they are connecting with. Do take some time to tell us a little bit about yourself and include your social media profiles and more. This is also a gentle reminder to hit the refresh data button at the start of each day so that any updates and changes will be properly reflected on your page. Finally, if you do require any technical support, all you need to do is click on the live support button found on the top right-hand corner on your on-air page, and someone will be able to assist you directly. Now, I know I have bombarded you with a lot of information, but in case you need a refresher, simply click on the help section for more FAQs. Without further ado, I would like to introduce the chairperson for the FPSO World Congress Live 2020, Mr. Dave Hartel. Dave has significant onshore and offshore oil and gas developments experience, including facilities engineering, construction, installation, project management, and production operations. His developments experience has ranged from onshore remote locations to offshore deep water locations. Dave has international experience working with national energy companies, energy ministries, governmental regulators, and more. Dave is currently the Managing Director at Stellar Energy, and I have no doubt we are all in good hands today. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dave virtually to start the Congress. Dave, please.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Welcome to the FPSO World Congress 2020. This year it's live, it's online, it's virtual. Thank you for joining us with people all over the world. Some of you are staying up late and some of you are getting up early, so I hope you're all well and staying safe. The Congress theme this year is navigating the global pandemic and volatile oil price. I wonder how they came up with that subject. A year ago, I stood in front of the FPSO World Congress in Singapore and listened alongside many of you to good discussions about the state of our industry and various related technical, commercial, and financial topics. It was a great Congress, and we all look forward to 2020. Little did we know what 2020 had in store for us. Without turning this into a public health update, it's obvious that our FPSO industry, like others in the upstream side of oil and gas, has been significantly impacted by the virus. Quarantines and lockdowns devastated energy demand, which in turn impacted energy market pricing and resulted in oversupply. Russia and Saudi Arabia apparently thought that was a good time to start an economic war on the 8th of March this year, and the WTI oil price actually got negative on the 20th of April. After several months, reality set in and producers curtailed production, often due to uneconomic production where the price they were receiving for their product was significantly lower than the break-even oil price. With all this happening so soon after 2015 crash, there was reduced opportunities to cut further costs, and so projects were canceled or deferred. Drilling rigs were released and wells were not drilled. Supply has continued to fall as production normally depletes existing fields. A little bit of good news. In the meantime, COVID has subsided to a little bit extent, and there's about 30 to 40 potential vaccines being trialed. If COVID could be contained, demand could continue to firm up and hopefully grow. Earlier this year, we heard from financial experts, including JP Morgan, theorizing that dramatic supply deficits could even lead to something they called a bullish supercycle, with oil touching $100 a barrel again. I don't know about that, but continued recovery from the mid-40s where we are today into the 50s would be very helpful for our industry. Let's see what our experts have to share with us over the rest of this week and one day next week. Hopefully there'll be some positive steps that are being taken and some good lessons learned to share among ourselves. And some of that will start with our opening keynote panel. The panel today is evaluating the impact of COVID-19 on the global FPSO market, $30 billion of E&P investments, and its project deliverables. So I'd like to head over to the panel now virtually and introduce our speakers. We have three panelists joining us today. So first one, Joseph Allenberg, FPSO Delivery Manager from Jadestone Energy. Joseph, you want to go ahead and switch on? Joseph has worked in the oil and gas industry for more than 22 years in various management and project execution senior roles for FSOs and FPSOs with extensive experience all over the world: Singapore, China, Vietnam, Australia, and Israel. He's recently worked as FPSO Delivery Manager with Jadestone Energy's project offshore Vietnam. Our next speaker is Felipe Costa. He's Managing Director of Jensen Baronia Production. Felipe is joining us from The Hague today. He has worldwide experience as project manager, engineering manager, proposal manager, and business development manager in oil and gas, petrochem, and energy sectors with a special focus on offshore production, strategic and conceptual development across the full life cycle. So hopefully we'll hear some good things from Felipe. And our last panelist is David Boggs, Managing Director of Energy Maritime Associates. They publish market-leading reports on the floating production industry, and they provide advisory services for development of FPSOs, FLNGs, FRSUs, semis, spars, TLPs, MOPUs, and FSOs. He has over 15 years experience in our industry and should help us with some good information across this topic. So I'd like to switch over to the panel. Let each of the guys give us an opening statement, and then we'll go through some topics. So Joseph, do you want to lead us off?
Thank you, Dave. Welcome to all exhibitors and all the people around the world that are joining us this time online. It's clearly something new. We're doing the FPSO World Conference for the first time online, and I'm sure it's going to be an amazing one. Going to the topic of what we're discussing at the moment, quite clearly, the way I call it was the new era of online FPSO project execution strategy. It's now more than ever oil companies, FPSO contractors, shipyards, equipment and service contractors and subcontractors, all associated with oil and gas projects, and in particular FPSOs, finds themselves executing projects via online remote control. Yes, we call it remote control because we are all sitting at home or in offices remotely, far away from the yards, and needing to execute. We have limited access to facilities and services, and pretty much an unorthodox typical oil company control tools with a hope to meet or minimize schedule impact without compromising safety and quality. Biggest questions will be asked next is, does it make sense to continue? Does the economics still works, and who bears the cost of delays? Is it possible to continue and deliver despite the unforeseen? At what cost, and how long will it take? Can we really forecast delivery dates in a pandemic that yet we can't control? Is vaccine the answer that we're all looking for in the FPSO market? Let's see. I think we'll be able to answer some of those questions today. Thank you, Dave.
Okay, Felipe.
Hi. Hi, David. Thank you very much for the introduction. I hope that this webinar can again, be of the same level of success as the classic FPSO congresses. Well, I rather be shaking hands and talking with people in the face. This is a different way of doing, but as just Joseph was saying, we are in a new era where we need to adapt. My take in this situation is where are the opportunities and how these can work as a catalytic, to good ideas that were good ideas for many years and were on the paper. As you know, in the previous congresses, great focus on digitalization, and how this situation works again as a enhancer of that type of ideas and projects that were in the pipeline. And at the same time, how can we create a real cooperative environment between suppliers, clients, and FPSO operators to create solutions in these new times. We need to listen better as an FPSO operator, or more attentive to the solutions provided by our suppliers. So how can this situation help us to escalate to the next level, where we have a real cooperative environment throughout clients, FPSO operators, and suppliers? So looking forward to the conclusions in the end of this Congress, to see if good ideas can be implemented in this period. Okay. Thank you everyone. Thank you, David.
Okay, David.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm actually currently in Washington, D.C., where it's 3 a.m. So I'm up bright and early to be with you all, and I'm very happy to be here. As Felipe and Joseph and David said, the Congress has been going on for many years, and it's a great opportunity to see what's going on in the industry and to get to meet people. Obviously this year is very different, but in some respects, maybe it's an opportunity to get to know more people from different parts of the world, since we can contact each other virtually and not having to fly across the world to Singapore. So no, I look forward to the session today. I think it's been very interesting to see how the industry has adapted to the sudden changes with COVID and with the oil price drop. In terms of sort of 3 sectors that we look at. One is the FPSOs that are currently operating, and then the FPSOs that are on order in the yards under construction or conversion, and then thirdly, the projects that are in the planning phases. And I've been very impressed in terms of the units in operation. I mean, just the logistics and all of that, how all the companies and oil and contractors have worked together to keep the units operating around the clock in very difficult situations. And then we'll talk, I think, quite a bit on the panel about the units on order and how the shipyards and project managers have had to pivot and adapt. And then finally, in terms of the ones in the planning stages, that's been the easiest to address, because most companies have just stopped or deferred those projects. But as David mentioned in the opening, oil prices have picked up considerably, and there is potential that they could rise further. And then which of these projects will move forward, and how and when will they move forward. So I look forward to discussing all of that on the panel.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think that's one thing that hopefully will come out of this conference this week and next is, in spite of all the challenges and all the negative things, there's also a lot of positive signs. People have realized that we have technologies and tools and work practices that we can try out that maybe we didn't conceive of before, and it's remarkable how resilient the industry has been in spite of these challenges. So hopefully we'll hear how some of the people have demonstrated this resilience to overcome these, and the positive things that we've learned, the acceleration of digital transformation, the remote working, all that. It'll be great to share that. So we're going to some of our topics. One of the first topics we're going to start about was, it was projected that there could be up to 30% time delay in project deliveries due to staffing and supply shortages in COVID-19 affected countries. And so the idea was, how are people overcoming some of this? So we'll chat a little bit about this topic, and so I'll hand back over to Joseph right now to see his perspective on this. How are people overcoming some of these?
Thank you, Dave. Indeed, these are first questions. The first question to be asked is really how much are we going to be delayed on those projects? We know that typically FPSO projects takes about 36 to 42 months, depends on complexity and size. And when we are talking 30% delay, we are looking at the context of about 12 months. Personally, I think 12 months is a reasonable amount of delay that can be seen as a real delay in the projects. But really the underlying issues are the reasonable delay time that we are saying, is it manageable? Are the economics still works? At the end of the day, you still need to maintain a team, you still need to maintain your personnel, and you need to keep paying. Is it still economic for the oil company as well as the contractor who actually bears the cost in these cases? So I would say if there's no further changes in COVID-19 and things are placed under control, travel is less restricted, and the expert personnel are able to reach the work destinations, whether it is in China or Brazil or Singapore or Korea and the likes, I think we'll be able to manage this 30%. If we didn't, and we haven't seen any change and we do not have a vaccine, that means restrictions still exist. I think it's anyone's guess whether 30% is the last percentage we will see in terms of delays. So let's see how it goes, and let's assume the other subcontractors do not close business by then.
Okay, Felipe, how about what's your perspective on this?
It's actually a very interesting period for Insun. As you know, in Insun, we finished a project bang on in the start of the, let's say, on the close out of the world for the COVID, Aniala Madu. So we departed the vessel in Singapore towards the destination in Nigeria in February. That has caused us very, let's say, a lot of challenges, especially related, as you say, at moving of crews, the moving stuff for this rotation of crews from the vessel. And as basically also drive to delay, it's not a delay on the delivery of the project, but on delay on the entire process of delivering acceptance, transfer to the authorities, has been a challenge. And at the same time, in October, we signed the first Petrobras FPSO. And when the vessel entered the shipyard has been in March. So that has been, again, bang on in the middle of the closeout of the world for the COVID. In both situations, we had to be very creative in how we mitigate the impact that we were having in the project. And again, only could be possible with close cooperation with our partners, with our suppliers. Cooperating with them and being open to new ideas, we were able to progress to a status where we were able to progress the project within the expected timeline. So we didn't suffer any major delays during this stage. But we had to be flexible, bringing people to China, as Joseph was saying, it create a big challenge, and we had to basically to be a virtual client. Although we have a small team in the shipyard, it's not to the extent that we wanted to have at this stage. So again, we had to work with our suppliers and with our partners to come up with solutions to ensure that safety and the quality of the project were meeting the targets. So at this stage, as a company, we didn't see the impact. We didn't see this 30% forecast impacts in the projects. However, we see in certain areas that there will be, while the project moves, that might be some areas where we need to be creative, how we mitigate the impact that we are having in the project. So it's again, it's a new situation. We have to be creative. Just before the Congress started, we were just having a small chat, and we were used to do the same thing again. So we always do the same mistakes. So we were always used to the same solution. So now it's a new challenge where we have to come up with new solutions to these challenges. So, and it's again how we look at this as an opportunity to improve our industry, and maybe in the other end of the tunnel, we can be a better industry and deliver better projects. So I leave it open for the discussion.
That's a great positive statement there, Felipe, and hopefully we'll get into that a little bit more. David, what do you see as far as potential delays to projects from your perspective?
Yeah, definitely. This is something that we've been tracking very closely, and it's obviously it's constantly changing and moving target, and it really varies across the board, very much depending on where the project is in its life cycle, as well as where the project is physically being constructed, and also sort of the contracting strategy for how it's being done. So we've seen, I mean, for example, some projects, at least in the early stages, didn't have any delays. CNOOC took delivery of the Haiyang Shiyou 119 FPSO, on time at the very beginning of the year, even though China was the first place to be hit hard by the pandemic. On the other hand, we've seen projects that are now, already being pushed back by more than a year. And I think the thing to take into consideration is like I said, one is what stage of the project is it in? Is it in just very early engineering phases where maybe the impact isn't so easy to see, and maybe it's easier to do engineering virtually than doing shipyard construction and conversion. And also another big point is how is the project being funded? For many of the oil companies, because of the oil price crash, it's not just because of COVID. Their cash flows have been severely constrained. They've cut dividends, and therefore, if they're having to make big milestone payments, they have now rephased and rescheduled these payments to push them off, and therefore they're not trying to progress the project as quickly, as opposed to some projects that are contractor funded and they'll get paid as soon as there's first oil. So we see that a lot of the leasing projects are continuing to move at a regular pace, whereas some projects funded directly by the oil companies on an EPC basis are being rephased and therefore intentionally delayed in order to time it better with their cash flows and with the oil prices. And I agree with what Felipe was saying, that out of this crisis we can develop new tools and techniques. And they say necessity is the mother of invention, and I do think it is a very good opportunity to find new ways and also to do things more cost effectively, especially. I mean, certainly travel is a very expensive thing to be flying people all over the world, and now with technology like we're using now, it's not the same as being there in person, but it can be a very good substitute for many things, and definitely can be much more cost effective in many ways, which is something the whole industry needs to focus on to bring costs down. So in terms of the delays, as we said, it really varies across the board depending on the project. And as we know, certain countries have been more impacted than others. Projects in China were hit hard at the beginning, but they seem to have come back very quickly. And most of the contractors that are doing work in China say that it's more or less back to normal in terms of production efficiency, whereas obviously projects in Singapore, for example, which is relying a lot on foreign labor, has had more struggles. And so I'll leave it with that for this question. Thanks, David.
Okay. Yeah, we've had a little bit of overlap with our second topic, but the second topic was managing project management issues as the travel bans or restricted contractors. So we've touched a little bit on some of the tools. We've got Zoom, we have Microsoft Teams, we have other video conference platforms. I'm curious to hear about what kind of experience people have with project meetings with people all over the world, all different aspects of the value chain. How about, has there been any inspections done remotely or witnessing testing? So we read about that on LinkedIn, about people doing a virtual witnessing of key equipment at vendors. So I'd be curious if anybody's had experience with some of these remote tools. So Joseph, how about you kick us off?
Thanks, Dave. I think the first topic is obviously there's going to be a lot of debate, and I think time is going to tell us how and what we will see in the future. But moving to the topic of project management and how it is currently managed with regards to travel and personnel movement and so on. So I can say, based on a case study that I've done recently for offshore China conference just in August, and that is based on 2 FPSO contractors, which I may unable to name due to confidentiality, but the information shared with me was quite clear. Business travel as came to a complete halt, basically due to the quarantine requirements and the entry and exit restrictions between countries worldwide has basically brought travel to a halt. People couldn't go, nobody will go for 14 days quarantine, and some countries won't let you go in at all. So special permission, unless you're a citizen or a resident in those countries, you won't be able to enter, as we have seen in Singapore quite clearly, China and other places in the world. Some of the comments that I received were talking about inefficiencies, delays in subcontracts finalization, the lack of the ability to meet face-to-face with key subcontractors like shipyards or major equipment subcontractors have caused them delays in the project management, in the reaching the targets and the goals to close things. Some say that in a way they've done it online, it cost them less, yes, and they can do it quite instantly, but the results are not the same. There's been a lack of project management control to a certain degree, as indicated by a few. And the question is really, are we really making a progress as we think we are making at the present? And that was the biggest questions being asked by project managers of FPSO contractors with regards to what's happening at the shipyards. Whether the reporting is real, as you're saying, we're seeing things online and inspection takes place online. Is it that efficient, and is it really giving us the confidence level we're looking or used to within the FPSO market? Last but not least, a lot of companies have had to adjust and to adapt to new regulations and new special visa requirements. Applications are quite troublesome. I think Inson, as well as companies like would be SBM or MODEC and the likes, which are working quite extensively in China, will indicate that visa applications were quite difficult, not easy at all to achieve. Requires special permissions, and with countries that lockdowns with limited services, the waiting time for approval would be very long, which will delay the progress or delay the actual project management progress that we'll be expecting to see typically in an FPSO market when you are traveling and doing things face to face. So these are some of the issues that been highlighted to me or shared with me as part of project management and travel restrictions and personnel, lack of expert personnel.
Great, Joseph. Felipe, how have you guys dealt with the challenge of communicating with all the participants and stakeholders across your projects and your fleet?
Specific for the communication item, I think has been working quite well. Zooms, Teams, all these tools that have been improved immensely to help us to communicate remotely. For instance, we have performed the HAZOP for the ANANERI all virtually, and has been a great success according to our client, according to our chairperson, and to our team. That was, of course, slightly longer than normal, already quite long HAZOP for an FPSO, but has been very successful. The way the tools have developed very quickly to help us to perform that tasks. I think the key here, and as Joseph was saying, on the project management, it's our level of creativity. The soft work has been to a certain extent already done digitally. The entire design, the MTOs, the 3D modeling, all that has been used a digital platform and has been shared digitally, and has worked quite okay. Engineering, it's a soft part of the work. Placing orders, procurement, the initial stage of procurement, it's all done in front of a laptop. So that part didn't suffer. You brought something, David, that was the inspection part. Something needs to be done there in order to increase the digitalization of the inspection scope. How much, if you split in soft work and hard work, how much of the hard work can be digitalized? For instance, if you have to have a welding inspector on site to do your inspections, good pictures and get the x-rays and all the inspection reports digitalized and in a digital platform can basically reduce the amount of work that has to be done in the field. So where we can have the specialist remote placed and still have the same quality. So we can, in cooperation with our suppliers, we can, and if the level of trust is there, we can digitalize or perform this usually hard work, where boots on the ground, where we have to go and physically look, to a more to a bigger digital component. So it's about the creativity. How can we, with these limitations that we have, we can improve? Quite recently, I pay a visit to one of our main suppliers of rotating equipment, and how they are using the technology that they were using already, like remote monitoring, to perform the FATs. For instance, where our inspector can be remotely looking at exactly the same data that he was looking before in the factory. So all these type of things, it's all about cooperating. It's all about seeing the issue and helping each other to drive the end result, but on a different way. So that's basically my point on these project management.
Good, thanks. David, obviously you're in Washington, D.C. You're talking to stakeholders all over the world in the FPSO industry. How's everybody feel these communication tools are working, and the whole idea of working remotely? Do you get a positive feedback from people?
I would say, yeah, in general, I think it has facilitated things quite a bit. And as Felipe had mentioned, yeah, the tools have improved dramatically. So the quality and being, everyone is used to it now. So, you don't have to wait to make an appointment with someone and fly across the world and meet them face to face. You can jump on a call and actually get things done more quickly sometimes. So I think in general, yeah, the communication has worked quite well. And I think what's important is it also will force some rethinking of how we execute these projects. And we already, we've talked about this many times before, but this really brings it to the forefront You look at different companies when they execute a project. Some companies bring a team of 5-10 people to the shipyard, and other companies bring a team of 200 people to the shipyard, and for the same the same scope, the same type of FPSO. And you have to wonder, well, what's the difference? Does the team who has 200 people, does the FPSO come out better, faster? Any real difference? And so I think now, because you can't bring all these people, it really forces you to question, what's the value, and what are the roles these people are actually playing, and can you do that work remotely? So like Felipe say, if you need to just witness, witness the test, can you do that? Can you do that remotely? And do you, so to be somewhere for a 30-minute test, once a day, do you need to be sitting there physically 24 hours a day in a different country? So I think it's an interesting opportunity to relook at how we manage projects.
Okay. Look, we got 10 minutes to go, so I think we'll just go straight over into our conclusions. And been a good to hear the positive things that people are doing. So Joseph, how would you close for us today? You're on mute there, Joseph.
Sorry, sorted out. Technical issues. Getting used to doing conference online is similar as getting used to doing projects online. So I think, as I said before, it's really, there's a lot of good things and a lot of positive things to take from the situation. It's really, as David and Felipe said already, it has forced many companies, oil companies, FPSO contractors to force themselves to actually change, to improve efficiency, to upgrade their softwares, to go away from the typical, I will use it quite openly, Excel sheets, into management softwares and platforms where people can share the knowledge, experience, data, and important information related to the project. So I think with that in mind, it has brought us to the point where companies are really looking to improve, looking to update themselves, and this time it's given them the reason to really go and do that. My conclusion will be is that oil companies and contractors with deeper pockets and secured orders backlog are likely to continue with their business as usual, more or less with some adjustments. The strongers will clearly survive, so the norms of the nature still applies here. I will further touch and say that mergers and acquisitions activities are and ideas are likely more on the horizon now than any other time. Major oil companies merger is no longer a dream, and we have seen Chevron and Noble Energy has joined forces and keeping a lion's share and focusing on certain areas. Further, my conclusion will be is that very few projects will be awarded moving forward until there is a stabilization in the market, supply, demand, that won't change. Until there is a vaccine, the world is still a big unknown, and government will change their policies as it comes. There's going to be second, third, fourth, and even fifth wave that we will see, and they're unavoidable. That will force things again to go back into phase 1 or phase 2 or circuit breaker and the like of it. Companies that are invested in projects and already spent a hefty amount of money will continue while looking to secure further financing, reduce cost, and agree new delivery dates. Those are in FID stage, LOI, or about to award will rethink about their position. They may terminate, they may renegotiate rates, they may postpone or push back, going back to the drawing boards and force engineers to spend less and be less creative and gold-plated engineering solutions, so to reduce CapEx. And the last two observations for me is financing is really the key factor here. Cash flow is the main constraint. projects that requires large equity contributions from field operators, such as EPCI contracts and fields with many production wells, etc., will be more at risk than those that are leased, assuming that the subcontractors have secured already their financing. And I think David will touch on this point a bit further because he's very close to this topic. And clearly supply chain workforce, yards in Asia and in China, Korea, Singapore seems better positioned to continue working under COVID-19 restrictions. And I think we will see some slowdown, but my biggest hope and my biggest vision is that in 2021, mid of 2021, we'll see a resurge in FPSO contracts being awarded, and hopefully oil price goes back and things will start getting back to normal. Thank you.
Okay. Felipe, how would you close for us?
How do I close? I want to keep the same tone. You know, this 2020 challenge, you know, it's a challenge. And as any other obstacle in life, you know, we have to look at that on how we overcome this obstacle and how we come better on the other side. Where are the opportunities? How can we use all these opportunities as a catalytic, or all these challenges as a catalytic for further development of the industry? We have been a very classic industry for many, many years. We have been doing always the same. And now this is a real, we are obliged to use new methods to develop the same product that we have been developing for years in this offshore industry. And in the end, we're gonna take some of these and use it in further development. We are already being approached by clients. How can we improve? How can we reduce costs, as David Bock said, in the projects due to this use of new tools? Which impact in the execution of the project can these have, and how can that transform or be evaluated in a way that it's an actual reduction on the cost of the project? Travel, digitalization, improvement of the tools, all that needs to be used in the future and as a real tool to cooperate also with our suppliers more nearly. Okay. Cooperation is a big word, and I think we need to take that to the next phase post COVID. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. David, one of the questions from the audience is, what's the prediction for FPSO FIDs over the next 12 to 18 months? Do you have a crystal ball that'll tell us about this, or is everybody waiting for COVID to calm down?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, we're working on our 5-year forecast, which will come out in the middle of September. So the crystal ball is hard at work. So I say we'll release our report in about 2 weeks, which will have the details. But in general, what we see is there certainly are going to be FIDs. I mean, you know, Mero 3 was just announced by Petrobras recently. Petrobras is continuing to move forward with projects, and so there are other companies, particularly large deep water projects. You know, long term, these are units that are going to be delivered in 2025, 26. You know, the back half of this decade, and so projects on that scale are still going forward. Other projects which are shorter scale, it's harder to tell because those companies are waiting for oil prices to pick up. And so just to touch on what Felipe had mentioned, I think, you know, this is a cyclical industry, and we're seeing the cycles are getting shorter and more frequent. And so the question is, how do you adapt to that when you're getting whipsawed up and down, and how to be able to execute these projects in that way? And I agree that the key is cooperation, and it's also allocation of risk. I mean, the industry has been terrible at allocating risk, and you look at what happens basically is companies exit the market. You see KBR I mean, it's not just FPSOs. KBR has exited the entire energy sector on an EPC basis. They just said, we're not going to take this risk anymore. And so, you know, the oil companies, you know, really need to cooperate with the supply chain and figure things out, how to develop these projects. So that would be my big takeaway, is in terms of, you know, look at your project and how can you, there definitely are solutions for the fields, but you need to look very carefully at the field, at the country, at your project, and be realistic about how can you actually execute it. And, you know, there are certain projects that are much more suitable for, you know, for EPC lump sum basis versus a lease. And also, so, you know, there are solutions out there. And I think that's really what I would focus on, is people should be focusing on solutions and not studies and sort of research projects. That's, you know, we can do those as well, but what we like to do for clients is to come up with solutions and tell them, this is how you can work with the industry to come up with a viable solution for your field development.
Okay, well, that's all the time we got for the panel. So I want to thank each of you, Joseph, Felipe, and David, for joining us and helping share this, some good positive messages. Hopefully we'll carry on that spirit through the rest of the conference. So thanks very much, guys.
Thank you.
Jamie?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dave, Felipe, Joseph, and David, for an interesting panel. And this is indeed a great start to the FPSO World Congress Live 2020. Now, as mentioned in the welcome address earlier, we are introducing a new segment called the Power Demonstration Videos this year. Now, these videos have been prepared specially for you, and the first two that we are very proud to be showing are from Boskalis and Able.
Good day. Boskalis is part of the FPSO industry since its origination. And during this journey together, we have seen all aspects of the business cycle multiple times. We aspire to be the leading marine expert with our one-stop shop approach for all marine services required during both the CAPEX and OPEX phase of an FPSO project. With an emphasis on tailored project engineering, I think it's fair to say that with our resourceful and hands-on culture, this is what we enjoy most and where we perform best. Case by case, we engineer compelling marine solutions. And please let us walk you through what this means in detail and how this may manifest as a value add to your project. We will break it up into 4 sections, and these are construction assistance, transport, installation, and maintenance and decommissioning.
Boskalis owns and operates a fleet of floating cranes deployed on FPSO integration projects in Europe and Brazil. Established in 1985, Asian Lift, the Singapore-based joint venture between Boskalis and Keppel Offshore and Marine, owns and operates 3 floating cranes with up to 5,000 metric tons lifting capacity. Asian Lift is a market leader for FPSO module and turret lifts at the construction yards in Singapore. Boskalis is the market leader when it comes to transportation of FPSOs to their production location using either its fleet of long-distance tugs for wet tow or dry transportation on its semi-submersible vessels. Boskalis is in a unique position to propose the most suitable transport solution tailored for its clients' needs. Over the past years, Boskalis has dry transported various types of floaters from ship-shaped, box-shaped, or circular design. In 2020, the Boka Vanguard broke its own record for a long-distance dry transport when it delivered the 92,000 metric ton box-shaped Petrobras P70 FPSO from China to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
As mentioned, Boskalis is capable of offering multiple solutions for transporting your FPSO. Not only the conventional wet tow can be offered, we also have the availability of the Boka Vanguard. For the Boka Vanguard, we can offer a dry transportation of your FPSO. The benefits of using the Boka Vanguard for your FPSO transportation is that we can shorten the transit time. And this has multiple benefits. You know exactly upfront what the transition time of your FPSO will be. And another advantage is that we are better capable of avoiding the bad weather. By avoiding the bad weather, you also can optimize the design of your FPSO, which in the end leads to less steel for your FPSO. But we believe that the best benefit is that the transition time of your FPSO is shortened so that we can extend the time at the yard. Time at the yard, of course, is essential in order to do your commissioning of the FPSO before delivery. This not only benefits the operator of the FPSO, but also the lifetime of the FPSO. Having a FPSO on the BOCA Vanguard will shorten your transit time and will optimize your design of the FPSO. So to conclude, if you want to transport your FPSO from the Far East to, for example, the Gulf of Mexico or Brazil, you can shorten the time of transit from almost 90 days to less than 50 days. These days you can be used for commissioning your FPSO at the yard, and it's valuable time for the customers and for the end client.
Boskalis offers one-stop transport and installation solutions to its clients that include the FPSO transport, positioning, mooring system installation and hookup. This reduces the interface risk for Boskalis' clients. The BOCA Falcon is a construction support vessel specifically for the installation and hookup of mooring systems. Equally, the BOCA Lift 1 heavy lift vessel can be outfitted for these tasks. Often a good fit for projects with comprehensive mooring systems to be loaded and installed in a single trip in remote areas or for projects with large lifting requirements. In 2020, she completed a comprehensive mooring preset in the Arctic.
The key operating advantages we have is that we are the single company with owned and controlled assets and pertinent project tooling for transport and installation, as well as hookup scopes altogether. We are ahead of the market when it comes to product leadership. Or better, our ability to realize integrated solutions.
Boskalis has a large international network of offices. Where required, Boskalis can rely on its capable employees stationed in offices around the world to assist with local rules and regulations in full. Boskalis operates a large fleet of dive support vessels, construction support vessels and anchor handling vessels. These assets can be used for the inspection, maintenance and repair of subsea FPSO components such as thrusters and mooring lines. After the operational life of the FPSO, Boskalis can disconnect the FPSO from its mooring system and transport the FPSO to either a shipyard or disposal yard. The subsea systems will be removed in accordance with applicable legislation.
To conclude, ultimately we differentiate by the ability to offer tailored marine solutions throughout the entire FPSO lifecycle. And the dialogue to potentially integrate various marine services may lead to substantial value add to your FPSO project. We can create new horizons together for the FPSO industry.
Aibel's roots date back more than a century. We are a forward-looking and leading supplier of services related to oil, gas and offshore wind industries. We have an annual turnover of around 1 billion euros, and our 4,000 skilled workers makes us one of the largest employers in Norway. Aibel is privately owned by Norwegian family company Ferd and Ratos, which are stock listed in Stockholm, together with the Swedish 6th AP Fund. Aibel is a signatory of UN Global Compact, and we are committed to balance the company's economic sustainability alongside our social and environmental responsibilities. Our employees' health and safety is a first priority, and we invest considerably into improving all aspects of our operation to reach our vision of zero harm to people and the environment. Our yard in Thailand is a world-class construction site for platform and FPSO modules, and our team in Thailand collaborates with Able in Norway and Singapore on large EPC contracts. Throughout the years, Able has successfully delivered a large number of new topsides and large modules for field development projects on the Norwegian continental shelf. Recent projects include Gudrun, Dvalin and the Johan Sverdrup drilling platform. These projects have paved the way for our largest project to date, the Johan Sverdrup P2 process platform, which is operated by Equinor. The gigantic Johan Sverdrup field is operated on land-based renewable power. We have already built a converter station and installed converter equipment, as well as a trenched and laid 2 alternating current cables, all the way from Haugsnesset to the field. Next is Phase 2, which includes construction of another converter station. The offshore wind market is growing, and Able has delivered several successful projects within this segment for years. Our plan is to expand with both existing and new markets by creating partnerships with leading companies, keeping our concepts cost-effective and making sure our international delivery model stays competitive. In Able, we aim to be visionary, open, responsible and flexible. We truly hope that you will recognize us for these core values, whether you're a customer, a supplier, partner or in any way acquainted with Able and our employees. Able's roots date back more than a century. We are a forward-looking and leading supplier of services related to oil, gas and offshore wind industries. We have an annual turnover of around 1 billion euros, and our 4,000 skilled workers makes us one of the largest employers in Norway. Able is privately owned by Norwegian family company Ferd and Ratos, which are stock listed in Stockholm, together with the Swedish 6th AP Fund. Able is a signatory of UN Global Compact, and we are committed to balance the company's economic sustainability alongside our social and environmental responsibilities. Our employees' health and safety is a first priority, and we invest considerably into improving all aspects of our operation to reach our vision of zero harm to people and the environment. Our yard in Thailand is a world-class construction site for platform and FPSO modules, and our team in Thailand collaborates with Able in Norway and Singapore on large EPC contracts. Throughout the years, Able has successfully delivered a large number of new topsides and large modules for field development projects on the Norwegian continental shelf. Recent projects include Gudrun, Dvalin and the Johan Sverdrup drilling platform. These projects have paved the way for our largest project to date, the Johan Sverdrup P2 process platform, which is operated by Equinor. The gigantic Johan Sverdrup field is operated on land-based renewable power. We have already built a converter station and installed converter equipment, as well as a trenched and laid 2 alternating current cables, all the way from Haugsnesset to the field. Next is Phase 2, which includes construction of another converter station. The offshore wind market is growing, and Aibel has delivered several successful projects within this segment for years. Our plan is to expand with both existing and new markets by creating partnerships with leading companies, keeping our concepts cost-effective and making sure our international delivery model stays competitive. In Aibel, we aim to be visionary, open, responsible and flexible. We truly hope that you will recognize us for these core values, whether you're a customer, a supplier, partner or in any way acquainted with Aibel and our employees.